Okay, g'day, hi, and welcome. All right, I sort of see the flying V back there, but sort of can't. Oh well. Okay, this could be a bit of a ramble video. Yeah, me rambling. Can you imagine that? Who'd ever thunk something like that could happen? But I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of guitar porn here and stuff like that. I was watching. You guys probably seen. What is he? What is the channel called? The guy from India, anyway. He's got a really extravagant guitar collection, uh, worth about $300,000, about 70 or 80 guitars, whatever it is he has. And you can imagine all the stuff he has, like at PRSs and my Holcomb guitars blocking the flying V. But you get to see the flying V quite a bit. So, and he was making a kind of like he was saying he bought every dream guitar that he ever could ever want because he could afford them, right? So he bought every dream guitar that he could have ever wanted, and what it did for him and what he realized, like and stuff like that. And there's not going to be one of those money can't buy you happiness kind of videos because the way I look at it is uh, being broke, okay, definitely doesn't buy you happiness either. you know Now if you look in this room, you're looking at a lot of money right here. You know what I mean? I'm not bragging. I am not a wealthy man by any stretch of the imagination. You're looking at years of hard work to get this stuff. I'm 51 years old, and I have owned 54 or 56 guitars in my lifetime, and I currently own about 10 or so. I'll have to add them up, plus the bass. And then 6 violins, a drum kit now. The drum kit is the last instrument I bought was the drum kit in February, which I'll be paying for till next February. And having all these extravagant guitars, you'd say, okay, need not want. Well, yes and no. When I buy guitars, I do tend to buy them more as a player than a collector. So my needs are not okay. What's the value of that PRS going to be in 10 years? I don't think of it like that. Although my old Hammer Diablo, had I hung on to it, mind you, in mint condition, those things went from new. My Hammer Diablo in 1994 was either 850 before tax Canadian or 1,050 before tax Canadian. I don't remember the exact price. I do still have the price tag from it somewhere else. I always kind of keep a log of my receipts and stuff like that from the guitars, just to kind of years down the line, like how much did I pay for it? And right now, like two guitars in this room that I think are bang for the buck that were super awesome is this SG3. That was $1,560 back in 2006 Canadian before tax. And that Mark Holcomb guitar, which I just got a little over a year ago, was 1380, I think. It was either 1280 or 1380. All I can say is bang is one of those really great guitars, bang for the buck, where it's just at that price point where you didn't pay too much for it and you didn't pay too little. Now that said, $1,300 is a lot of freaking money in this day and age, especially with the inflation and all that. And that's one, like, for a lot of people, like they're probably never going to be able to ever get their dream guitar. Now, when I bought my first dream guitar, which is this 1961 reissue, SG61 reissue. This is a circa 2007. These things were $1,900 back in 2007. They were $1,900 brand new. When they came out in 92 or 94, I want to say they were amongst the $1,100 to $1,200 range, which even back then, that was a lot of guitar for the money. It was still considered pricey, but like the $10,000 guitars were very, very rare back then. Now it seems like like buying a Gibson under $1,500 in any country, in any currency, is almost impossible, right? The last past decade or so, the Gibsons have really shot up, and not justifiably either. Love Gibsons, for what they are and stuff like that. And I do understand like the collector value, and what Gibson is doing is they're catering to that boomer money that basically, no offense to the boomers, but the people that are retired that have amassed a lot of wealth. And so they're doing guitar, more towards the guitar collector, or stadium musicians, musicians that are playing sold out shows and stuff like that, where a $3,000 guitar is not really an issue for them. For a professional musician, right, the price of the guitar is almost irrelevant, because you'll eventually earn it back. To the enthusiast or collector or whatever, collectors like gambling. I mean, this guitar here, okay, it has a few issues with it, whatever, but it's still a pretty good guitar. It's still playable and everything like that. So it's a guitar that I'm kind of, I want to play it. Like if I play it live, I'll be playing it live at very selective shows that are paying well, number one. And it's not going to be like some, dive bar where I'm worried about a beer bottle hitting it or something like that, or somebody stealing it or whatever, because that guitar is probably going to go up in value a lot. The SG3, it's not original anymore, although I do have all the switches. I swapped out the toggle from the chicken head knob thing, which was cool, but Gibson should have went this way. Like it was just like the knob was just way too slow to click, 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 click. Nobody could do that live. This you can do live, right? And then I've got a push-pull pot that I added to it. But that said, in mint condition, one of these right now went from $1,560 to $4,000, $5,000. Same guitar. So because you can't get them anymore. Now, mind you, that's probably a low number one. Whatever. So these guitars are kind of collectors in a sense, especially this, because they make a 61 standard reissue, which is this body. That body's about, quarter-inch thinner than this body. And that's got the 60 slim taper neck on it versus the regular SG standard kind of body and neck setup. And the thing about it is that, getting back to what the guy was saying, like, he bought every guitar he wanted, and whatever. He doesn't get a rush or a buzz off it. It was just kind of like, I wanted the guitar, I got it. But it didn't make him any happier, didn't make him any sadder, whatever. And that's something that, if I could get away with just one guitar, that would be awesome. But what I realized over the years, one guitar doesn't do everything, right? And to a lot of people, especially the metal guys and stuff like that, like tone woods don't mean anything to them. Because when you got high gain on it, it kind of doesn't. They are right. Like Glenn Frick is right about in the mix. The guitar doesn't really matter that much for tone and stuff, because it's so washed out with everything else. But when you're playing it by yourself, which is 99.9% of the time, or you're playing it live, that's when I find the guitar, that's when the tone woods make sense and stuff like that, because you hear it through all, the speakers and stuff like that. You do hear the difference between a Holcomb guitar and the SGs. You can hear it, even in the mix, you'll hear it. And you'll have a preference for, this sound or that sound for different things. Like for the straight through the tube amp, you pretty much can't beat these guitars, right? But for modern sounds, that PRS and that Jackson Flying V are just absolute animals, you know what I mean? Especially that Flying V, that thing is just so crazy. What a crazy sound. And my guitar collection is going to get bigger because I have a purpose to it. Like, for example, I have an 8-string sitting off the side here. That 8-string, okay, I may or may not keep it forever. I don't know. But what I learned years ago was, there's a lot of guys, and you'll see them all over YouTube, where they have 50 guitars, right? And they have 50 budget guitars, what I call impulse buys. And the problem with that is what led to me buying this guitar. This is not my first pro guitar. This is my, I would say, fourth pro guitar. that I bought. So I started out with a, when I was 5 playing guitar. My first guitar was a K guitar. I think that thing was like $2 or $5 that my mom spent on it. And then it got kind of unique. I found all these old acoustics between 5 and 10, and I'd fix them up, buy a set of strings on, play them until I break the strings and whatever. And I was self-taught and everything like that. And then around 10, when I was about 10, that's when I really, really started putting effort into it. Because my cousin, he was getting into it. He bought his first electric guitar. And I wasn't jealous of him, but I was like envious of the idea of not having an electric guitar. I was like, oh, I can't wait. And I was kind of at that stage where I knew I wanted to pursue music. Even at 10 years old, I knew I wanted to pursue music. But I didn't know if I wanted to be a drummer or a guitar player. Because, the drummer and the guitar player kind of have the really cool things in the band, right? The bass, I always liked the bass, but it was like, no, if you want to be the showmanship, you want to be doing the Neil Peart thing, or Jonathan Mover, Tommy Lee, or Alex Van Halen. You want to be doing these big grandiose drum, Dream Theater drummer, like that guy's kit's like, it's like 90 piece or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I'm sure the purists will tell me. But the drums were not feasible when I was younger. A, they were too expensive. B, they were too loud. I mean, not that I wasn't loud with my guitars. There's a reason why it does. I could play. Well, my mom is no longer with us, God rest her. But I could play my dad's favorite song, and he would still hate it if I was playing it because of the trauma I put my parents through playing, at like breakneck volumes for 6-8 hours a day. Just playing my guitar